Hi there, albumiers. Gary Beats here. I want to share with you some thoughts about one of the greatest drummers in the world, one of my favorites, Neil Peart. Here we go. We all know that the great Neil Peart always said that he was very influenced by the jazz drummers like Gene Krupa, like Max Ruach, and but if we listen very carefully, another huge influence on Neil's drumming is John Bonham. John Bonham. I always thought that Neil pushed a little bit further the way John Bonham's drumming was so powerful. Neil took it to the next level. I don't remember Neil saying this. He always talked about jazz musicians, which is obvious in his solos. We can notice that his let's say solo projects were jazz oriented, band oriented, great albums. I think there are two albums, and sharing with other great drummers, and they are awesome. But John Bonham is a huge influence on the way that Neil Peart created these drum playing designs. And why am I saying drum playing designs? Because he said that in his computer he played along and came with several kinds of drums and fills for a determined song, and then he tried to bring what the computer was doing to real drumming and composing his drumming. I never heard of something like that. I think it's very original, and really Neil for me is kind of an architecture in drumming. When you listen to the weapon, it's awesome the way the drums are building up all the song, in every Rush song. But another thing, Rush is hugely influenced by Led Zeppelin. I always thought as Rush as the progressive version of Led Zeppelin. Geddy Lee is a huge Led Zeppelin fan, Alex Lifeson, and obviously Neil. But the thing with these monsters of musicians is that they all have these grassroots, you name it, jazz, blues, rhythm and blues, and it's great how they bring all their influences to their music. The other thing I love, and I always love about Neil, is that he is a writer. He's a writer, and a very good writer. And once again, I'm talking about Neil in the present tense because he's with us. His music, his writing. Some journalists asked him or was commenting to him that his lyrics, if Neil think or thought about them as poems, and Neil answered that no, that they were not poems, they were writings, pieces of writing, and it's very true. Neil's marvelous lyrics are a rare specimen because they are not poetry. They are very thoughtful pieces of, I don't know if we can call them journalism, maybe literature, maybe literature. Very near to philosophy, but not philosophy itself. Very near to science fiction because he was, and he is, but he was a huge sci-fi reader, fan, and but we can listen to lyrics talking about social problems, economics, relationships, but not in a cheesy way. Neil's contribution to Rush was awesome. Personally, I am convinced that this kind of unions are made in heaven, because you can't imagine Gary or Alex or Neil in another band. Rush is Rush and always be Rush. Such a great artist, such a great players, telepathic, and lots of musicianship, very respectful about their own instrument and as a band, and regarding music as an art form. And I also love about Neil that he was not a political driven guy, even though he was very intellectual. And even though you can read in his books, beautiful books, so well and refined, very well written, some issues, but I really love about Neil that he wasn't this kind of activist, music activist wanting to save the world. And Rush was very, very careful about involving in those things. I'm not saying that they were not worried about the world, but they are what we must have from a band. Musicians making, creating great music. This morning I was listening to Led Zeppelin, and I was thinking about how special the album titles are. Physical Graffiti, In Through the Outer, Coda, Houses of the Holy. What a great titles! I don't know if it was Robert or Jimmy who came with the titles, but they are very, very special titles and a little strange. But, well, for me, that I'm not American or English, it sounds as strange but very original in that sense, album titles. And just as Led Zeppelin were very careful with the artwork, beautiful artwork, so Rush was with Hugh Syme, such a great artist. Well, I'm talking about Rush, but I wanted to tell you about my love for Neil, for his work, his writings. I always thought that Neil was a very like kind of a severe, angry man, antisocial, but it came to be a very nice guy, but a guy that, as you know, had a very tragic life. He was very ill. He lost his wife and his daughter, if I'm not wrong. A very difficult life, and a very nice guy, a gentleman. And I also want to acknowledge how important it is for us to respect our artists. If you remember, the ones that were always giving the interviews were Alex and Getty. Neil was very rare seen in an interview. Later on, we saw him. Later on, he alone was going to talk about his playing, his writings, and that was very very beautiful for me to seeing him coming out. But he was a very reclusive, and that was very sincere. It wasn't a marketing plan. And I love how these three guys, these three friends can respect one another the way they are. You can see in many footage making of their concerts or the shows that you can see Neil reading a book while Alex is making jokes and Getty is getting ready for the show. So how important is to respect one another, and these guys are just great. And in this specific video, Mr. Neil Peart, how great it is, because how wonderful it is that we can still enjoy their beautiful music, because bands like Rush are beyond labels. Another band that has huge influence from Led Zeppelin, Tool. And sometimes I feel that Tool and Rush are like cousins. I don't know. Or Tool and King Crimson are very different, but they have some things that connect them. I think that in that case, King Crimson, Rush, Tool is the musicianship, is the very careful observation, music very complex, but at the same time very heartful, full of heart, full of brains, and I don't know, with lots of respect for their music and then for the fans. The great Neil Peart. Thank you very much for listening to me. I want to share these things with you like a friend on the other side of the camera, when we can share thoughts, share ideas about what we think about these stars, these rock stars that we thought they were in some manner and they became the other, no? And Neil Peart, for example, he was very surprised that the great Charlie Watts went to see him. And Neil was surprised that Charlie was there in one of their concerts, and Charlie said, I came to see you. What what beautiful things that happen between bands, between these rock guys that are very friendly, that you can see them fooling around, having a great moment, sharing a beer. The Stones with the Beatles, Phil Collins with Peart Gabriel, and nothing about the things that the press told us about rivalry and being enemies, and no, nothing of that. Well, thank you very much, guys. See you soon. If you want to continue in this channel, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hopefully I will share with you not very common things, or not in a very common way, just as friends that love real music. Thank you very much. Gary Beats here.